It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, October 24th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's staying up late tonight, Russ.
Yeah, get the toothpicks out.
All right, we are going to preview tonight's late night action against the Vegas Golden Knights, plus it's Phantoms Tuesday, so we'll check in with our prospects there.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at @rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. And as a show, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Locked On Flyers as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can find us for free over on YouTube. We're also on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, the Flyers had the day off yesterday, getting into some Vegas shenanigans, I assume. And hopefully they took that time to rest a little bit because it is going to be a tough game in Vegas late night tonight.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they're at Dave & Buster's or maybe they're golfing.
Yeah, or, they could be at the Bellagio checking out the fountain.
Yeah, or the
any
Sphere, like
number of
said.
those things. Yeah, any of those things. But in the meantime, they are going to be facing a very tough Vegas Golden Knights team. Obviously, we know they are the returning champions, as they say, winning the Stanley
And
Cup
undefeated.
and undefeated. So they're 6-0-0. They lead the Pacific Division right now. They won against the Ducks on Saturday 4-1. That was their last game. So they are just as rested as the Flyers will be heading into this game, which I think is important. And especially for the Flyers side of things with the travel, like having an extra day to acclimate before heading into this game will be important for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's always nice to be able to get into practice before you play a tough team like this. Whether they implement anything new, probably not. But at least, yeah, it's good to get the practice in.
Yeah. Alex Pietrangelo is day to day right now for them. And that's really the only significant injury they've had this season so far. So overall, they are very healthy and raring to go. And we've seen it in the results. If you look at some of their overall stats so far, again, it's still early goings. The season is young. We know these stats are going to level out a little bit, but with this team, honestly, I don't know. Things could stay pretty consistent. They're averaging 4 goals a game so far, so the Flyers are going to have to really work to get on the board to keep up with this Vegas Golden Knights team.
Yeah, I mean, they're big, they're fast, they're mobile, they have good goaltending. They are a Stanley Cup winning team that doesn't seem to have a hangover or those mega injuries that other teams have had. So, they're in pretty good shape. So this is a real mental battle as much as it is anything else.
Yeah, and if you look at the other side of the goals, 1.83 goals against per game. So they've been keeping teams to 2 goals or less for every game. And so that differential, a 2-goal differential swing between what they're scoring and what they're allowing, that is a uphill battle for the Flyers to face.
It is, and they're not going to have the same kind of shorthanded opportunities. They may get a couple, but it's not going to be like last game. I mean, they have guys like Mark Stone. They have premier forwards who could defend. And so that's something where, I don't know if those things will happen in this game.
Yeah, and they have such a depth at forward. I mean, you look at They'd have honestly like one of the most talented fourth lines in hockey, and they get both sides of the game of what
Mhm.
a fourth line does there. And when you have like Carlson as your 3C, like he's that far down the lineup
Yeah.
because you have Jack Eichel and Stevenson, like it's that is a deep, deep lineup.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Paul Cotter is a guy that always was a pretty good scorer, and I'd watched him before he got to the NHL and really kind of liked him. And he's gotten faster, so he's a guy that you still have to watch out, even on the third line for scoring.
Yeah, and they've gotten scoring up and down the lineup so far this season. It hasn't just been that top line with Jack
No,
Eichel, Barbashev, and Marchessault.
yeah, which is a great top line. I mean, I'm happy to see Barbashev up there because I felt like he was a guy that was never getting his due because in juniors, that's the kind of player he was, a top line player. But then they changed his role. And then last year, as Barbashev said, they finally put him on the second line. And, that was the first time he had sniffed the second line in his entire NHL career. And he's really run with it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's been an important part. They have rotated things around a little bit so far, as all teams do early
Yeah.
season, I think to some degree. But I do think Barbashev is a good complementary player for Eichel and Marchessault, who are
Because
just
he's
a
fast,
deadly
he's
combination.
physical. Yeah.
Hmm.
He'll dig
Yeah,
in the
so
corners too.
if I were them, I would keep it that way, but, we
Yeah.
are not the coach of the Vegas
We
Golden
are
Knights.
not.
And on the blue line, you have McNabb and Theodore as their top pairing, which is, that is a tough battle for any of the Flyers lines to match up against.
Yeah, to me, Shea Theodore is like what Travis Sanheim was maybe supposed to be. Like, because they're similar. And even
Yeah,
with Sanheim
that's
playing
true.
better, I don't think he'll ever reach Shea Theodore's heights. But that's sort of like the defenseman I think they thought he'd be, and he'll get close to that maybe.
Yeah, I think so. It's a pretty solid blue line up and down as well. I think that being on the road, it is going to be really tough for the Flyers to get any matchups that they want out there.
Yeah, and Zach Whitecloud being out really is something else that they're kind of fortunate because he's another guy that's very underrated. But yeah, as far as getting the opportunities, they once again they're going to have to not just shoot the pucks in deep, but they're going to have to follow them up. They're going to have to win some board battles. I don't know if this is a game where they could play their fourth line a lot. I'm not sure if that's going to be beneficial, but I know they're going to try and force it for a little while, like maybe play them 8-9 minutes. And, their fourth
Right.
line can match them easy. Like that's, Nikolai Waugh and Kolasar, they can match them. So, but the thing is, again, this is another game where, like this road trip, you can't start the fourth line against the first line. You don't want that fourth line against Jack Eichel's line. You don't.
No, not at all. I think that you go first line against first line
Yeah.
and go from there because
Yeah.
I think that it you gotta have that skill, especially you need Sean Couturier's skill out there up against Eichel and Marchessault.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, technically he's hotter than any of the guys they have. So if he stays hot like that, it'll definitely give him a chance.
yeah, I think so. I think the most important thing is gonna be defensively to keep that consistent structure that, they've been actually playing really well so far and have decent defensive structure, but, like, they can't let up for a second with this Vegas team.
No, they have to have some good mobility in there for defense to really have a chance on this. I feel like that's their best bet. So whether it's the same, I don't think Risto is going to be in no matter what. So probably is going to be the same as last game. And, maybe they shuffle it around a little, but it was pretty good last game. Wasn't great, though. There were some mistakes. You can't make as many mistakes, though, against this team. That's going to be the hard part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other major thing is gonna be to keep working at that shot distribution and
Yes.
taking the shots when you get those high danger chances.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they're going to have to shoot at a really good clip, but really, like you said, get them on net. You're not going to probably not getting 40 shots against this team. So you really have to make them count. And I
Yeah,
mean, 40
and
shots on goal. You'll get 40 attempts, but you got to hit
right.
the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was looking at the new quote unquote edge technology that the NHL has put out and looking at shot distribution between these two teams. The biggest thing that stood out to me in these stats is that in that sort of high danger arc, not immediately in front of the net by the crease, but in that arc just outside of it in the high danger area, the Vegas Golden Knights have a 27.3% shooting percentage there, and the Flyers, it's 16.2. That is a big difference in those high danger areas, and that's something we've talked about where, the Flyers are having shot attempts, but the quality of the shots are less, and they're not going in from those high danger areas. They have to figure out how to get around and get through opposing defenses a little bit better.
Yeah, as these numbers start to really become like out there for us, they've been out there for teams. And the last couple of drafts, some of the smarter, better scorers have had these discussions with me. And so, like Cole Iserman for this year's draft, Zach Benson from last year's draft, Fantilli, Fantilli also having this discussion. I'm having this discussion now with draft eligible players because they understand that those are the key areas to score from. And the higher the percentage, the better off you're going to be. And so like young players that are not even in this league are focusing on it. So you have to believe the Flyers are focusing on it, but they really, we see guys that are missing on certain shots or guys that aren't as willing to go to the net. And clearly you would think Vegas would have the better net front game. But again, the Flyers with this young, hungry team should be able to get closer in that number.
Yep. And so I think that's something to keep an eye on as these numbers get more and more statistically significant over the season. In the meantime, we do have some Flyers prospects to talk about in Lehigh Valley and their progress so far this season. And we will do that coming up next. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about those last-minute tickets and flash deals. Plus, you can get that all-important view from your seats. My last Game Time purchase was a New York Liberty game. I had a blast with great center court seats. Their Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Also, tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your email. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
You know that feeling when Travis Konecny scores a hat trick or Olle Lycksell? If you want to get that feeling and win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. To have a chance at winning big, you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper as the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On Network. Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Fans can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football on Sleeper, and entries can be made in under a minute. With elite players like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Austin Matthews, plus the new guys like Connor Bedard, all you need to do is make more or less picks on stats for these stars. Choose from stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Flyers fans. You can get up to 100 times payouts on Sleeper, so start paying attention and get your picks right so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
On tomorrow's show, of course, we will be recapping the Flyers versus Vegas game. We will be recording that a little bit later than we normally do, so keep an eye out for that episode first thing in the morning. Plus, we will be answering your mailbag questions, so get them in at Locked On Flyers Twitter. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. or you can comment over on our YouTube channel. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms had their first 3-game weekend this past weekend, which is always a tough thing for them. 3
Not
days
easy.
not easy at all. The big news for the Phantoms is that J.R. Avon was back on the ice. So happy to see that. He played only in Sunday's game, but still good to see him out there, and going to give him a little bit of time to get back into it. I felt like he was a little tentative out there, and I think that's to be expected when you're coming back from an injury, but I do think he'll eventually get there. He had some little flashes of brilliance, and a great shot that was almost a goal, but he got called for crashing into the goaltender for goaltender interference, so it was taken back, but it was the right call.
It's his first year as a pro too, so it's okay to kind of dip his feet in.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on him moving forward. But I think, looking at this weekend, they won 2 and lost 1 game. They won both games against Springfield, but then lost to Hartford in that middle game, 5-1. I really feel like this team overall is playing well. That loss on Saturday, like they gave up 3 goals in the third period of that game, and I just feel like other than that period, they looked really solid all weekend long, and actually better than solid, I would say, for portions of Friday and Sunday for sure.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent, so really it's a matter of juggling a lot of these forwards to try and get good combinations and try and get playing time, for everybody. So that's the battle here, really.
It really is. And if anybody had a good weekend in this world, it is Olle Lycksell. 5 goals on the weekend. He got a hat trick on Friday. He scored the Phantoms' only goal in that loss on Saturday on the power play, and then scored again in Sunday's game. So I'd say he had a pretty good few days.
He did. I'm at the point, though, with Olle Lycksell, like he could probably have 10 goals out of the gate and not get a call up. And I just feel like anytime he's ever gotten called up, he really hasn't had enough of a chance, enough games in a row. And I just feel like he's going to end up developing somewhere else. That's just my gut feeling on him right now. It just doesn't feel like the coaching staff above ever seems to have the right role for him. Yeah, they'll try him on the second line. If he doesn't do anything, he might get one more game, and then it's pretty much it. Like, I don't know. Has he ever played 5 games in a row at the NHL level?
He has not. And I do worry about that a little bit, but what's making me worry less about that this year, and feel like, even though we have this past track record, to your point, of them not really giving him a chance, I feel like this year might be different just because of the line he's been on in Lehigh Valley. He's with Elliot Desnoyers and Samu Tuomaala, who the Flyers have a lot invested in those two. And so to put Lycksell with them, I feel like there's going to be A, more eyes on him, and B, I just feel like that's a clue that if they're putting him with guys that they have a lot of investment in, then that entire line is going to get a shot. And especially if Lycksell is as successful as he has been so far, and hopefully will continue to be, I think that'll go a long way, because I know they want Elliot Desnoyers up with the Flyers. I know they want to prove that Samu Tuomaala was a good pick. And so I do think this is a good line, and they're fun. They've been playing really well. The chemistry is amazing. The plays that they put together net front have been really spectacular, just like the smarts between the 3 of them. Samu Tuomaala, who we know as a guy who's just going to streak up the ice maybe and take a shot, he's digging pucks out off the boards and feeding it up to Desnoyers, who then pops it to Lycksell for a goal. Like, they're working together, and all of them, I think, will benefit from this combination and getting more complete games for all of them.
Yeah, they're all going to benefit. They're all going to develop, but I'm still going to not hold my breath on the other part.
Well, we'll see. I just think I feel really positively about this line,
Yeah, me
especially
too. I feel positive about the line for sure.
one thing that has also been a struggle for this team is there are too many quality forwards and there's not enough ice time to
Right.
go around. And so you saw Alexei Gendron in on Friday and Saturday, but they take him out for Brendan Furry on Sunday. I think that was a mistake, especially because he's on that line with Tanner Laczynski, who is also having a great season so far. He's leading the team in scoring 7 points in 5 games. And Gendron can benefit from being on a line with him, but when they take
Yeah.
him out, like, that's not helpful.
No, it's going to be a battle. Like it's going to be a battle to really get him that playing time when they have all these forwards. It's hard. I can't. I'm not going to get overly critical for the moment on this because I do think it's a hard coaching thing to have to do all this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's been a tough juggling act for them so far. It will continue to be, is my bet.
Yeah.
And with, a lot more roster spots available, I mean, it's pretty much endless. Like they don't really have to send anybody down to Reading. And
No.
I just feel like, Gendron needs to be in every game. I think Zayde Wisdom is getting the short end of the stick here as well.
Is.
He's been rotated out and he's just a monster every time he's out there, playing as hard as he can in all sections of the ice. So lot of questions for this management to answer in terms of how they want to manage all this and get the prospect development that we need from Lehigh Valley.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things now where we're going to kind of see how it works out. Maybe after a quarter of the season, it'll play itself out a little bit. I don't know, though. It might be all year.
All right. Well, there's so much more to talk about with the guys in Lehigh Valley. We haven't even touched the blue line yet. So we will get into all of that coming up next.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Getting back into our Phantoms Tuesday discussion, I think that, with all the good that has happened, we've also heard some rumblings of negativity coming out of Ian LaPerriere, and he is directing it at slightly older guys. He thinks like the youngest prospects are all working hard, and these slightly older guys who are maybe thinking about the Flyers and not focused on their time at Lehigh Valley really means Wade Allison, right?
Yeah. And I think, I talked about it. We mentioned it on the show. When he got sent down, I didn't think he got down there fast enough. And so now, I'm not shocked that he's slow to start as far as, for his complete game. I get that happens. I do. It's just a bad time for it to happen for him because, again, then it doesn't look good. And then other teams who the Flyers may want to include in a trade with him, may not want him. So that's, if I think this message is out there just for him being a Flyer, I would be naive because it's also out there for him possibly getting traded because there's not a lot of room for Wade Allison anymore. I mean, that's the reality. And he probably knows that. And, and that probably weighs heavy on him.
Right. And I think that the message was abundantly clear that was sent to him because on Sunday he was on the 4th line for Lehigh Valley, where he had been further up in the lineup. The first weekend he was on the 3rd line Friday and Saturday, but he was just out there for the 4th line, with Jordy Bellerive and then J.R. Avon, who was naturally going to get fewer minutes in his first game back. So I think that says a lot.
It does say a lot. And he's got to work his way up now. And so that's something where, again, it could be a very long season for him if he doesn't come around. Because again, his contract only goes through this season, right? And who knows what'll happen after that.
Yeah. Turning to the blue line a little bit, I think that they were trying to tinker with things a little bit this past weekend with maybe potentially splitting up Adam Ginning and Ronnie Attard, which is a mistake.
Yes.
And they figured that out and put them back together on Sunday, which was the right move. And then for that third pairing, having Helge Grans and Ethan Sampson out there together, which is exactly what I think it should be, with Mete and Belpedio as the other pairing out there. I think that is the ideal defensive pairings for the Phantoms, and I hope they stick with that. I mean, I know, again, they've got to rotate some guys in every now and again, and on a 3-game weekend, sure, I get it. But to me, that is the optimal pairing setup in terms of prospect development.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that is it. I might, as we've talked about, juggle it around a little bit, but yes, if they stuck with that, I would feel good at least that Grans can continue to develop, even though I think at some point he should develop at the NHL. And then Sampson, I think, is, again, one of these guys that will probably develop regardless. But I think at some point, if he, starts hitting big, whether it's this year or next year, he can't play third pairing anymore.
No, but I think developing Attard and Ginning is the top priority.
No,
now.
And I get that. That's for the short term. That's fine.
And both of them are sitting at a goal and 2 assists on the season so far, only 5 games in. So that's really good to see. Yeah. Both of them are getting involved offensively, but being pretty responsible defensively. I think
and I don't worry about Jennings' offense, honestly. He'll get some points at the NHL level, but it's this other part of his game that a lot of other Flyers defensemen don't have. And that's where I think he's really valuable.
Right. And I think that, where they get into trouble a little bit is something that the Phantoms have been having trouble with this season so far, is getting into the penalty box too much. I mean, we're looking, and again, it's early season, and I understand that the AHL, it gets a little sloppy up front, but we're also seeing, game after game where the opposing team, and the Phantoms for that matter, are getting 6 or 7 power play opportunities in a game. And that is too much time. I think that, the Phantoms need to just get a little bit more disciplined in their play. And some of these guys are just learning where these lines are with penalties, and it'll take some time, but it's definitely something that's on the board for them to work on.
Yeah, I think that's something within the whole organization, because when you do have a coach above that wants everybody to play really hard, really physical, stick up for your teammates, well, the other side of that is you're sometimes going to get these dumb penalties, especially with aggression and stuff.
Yeah, but I think that overall, at least for me, in these first 5 games, I'm seeing the prospects really shine in these games, and the AHL veterans are doing their jobs, but they're not overtaking the prospects in terms of importance, in terms of ice time, in terms of quality of play. And that's what we want to see here.
Yeah, ultimately, it's exactly what you want to see.
So the Phantoms have a couple of games this upcoming weekend. On Saturday, they're at Hershey. That'll be a tough matchup. And then Sunday, they are back home against Hartford. So we will catch up on those games next Tuesday. That will do it for today's show. Like I said, we will be back tomorrow morning at some point with our episode to recap the Vegas game. Plus, we will have our mailbag. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in those mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.